Okay, we're back with a third episode of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. It's no surprise that, like any new Star Trek series, it landed with a mixed reception online. Still, we're back here for the third episode, so let's review it. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm Captain Jack, and this is Star Trek Starfleet Academy, Episode 3. Now while you're watching, let me know your honest thoughts on the episode in the comments section below. Okay, let's make it so. Now look, I'm usually pretty accepting about humour, comedy, and more shenanigans in my Star Trek. However, this episode did go quite heavy on the prank war between cadets. And if I'm being honest, this sort of style of writing and the associated bit didn't really gel with me. The episode opens with the Academy and the War College cadets showing what appears to be a gym class together. If you've seen a gym episode of any high school drama show, it's basically just got a Star Trek themed coat of paint on it. It's kind of one of the episode's biggest sins, and the fact that it's part of Star Trek doesn't really factor into anything at all here. The clique versus clique of the Academy War College dispute is kind of childish and a bit cliche. Yes, Star Trek is no stranger to a practical joke. Like, if I remember back to Deep Space Nine, the character of Jadzia Dax would break into Security Chief Odo's quarters and move his furniture a few centimeters out of place, which annoyed Odo. That was funny. Before this series, Star Trek's own Starfleet Academy, in-universe, had a series of practical jokes. Kirk did some, Wesley was a victim of some, and even Mr. Data fell victim to some, so jokes aren't a stranger to Star Trek. Look, we all love a practical joke, but I think this episode overdid the style of humour and more. The first two episodes of this series handled a mix of comedy and seriousness rather well, but I feel like this episode was too heavy on the cringe. It kind of wasn't my vibe. Do let me know your thoughts of it in the comments below though. I'll be honest, Jaden's attempt at humour was a bit of a tough watch. It's kind of a massive shame, but this episode is basically a mix of American high school drama with stereotypical characters. It does not really matter if they're human or alien, they seem to be talking in a similar vein regardless. The overall contemporary language sticks out as well. If this were a high school in Star Trek, it would make more sense, but this is meant to be an elite academy. This is supposed to be a Star Trek series with an academy setting, not a high school with a Star Trek setting. Does that make sense? I know it might be a bit confusing, but you get what I mean. I think Starfleet Academy is really trying to appeal to new audiences for the Star Trek universe, but in doing so, it is losing what makes the show a Star Trek series. And with that said, I am not jumping to conclusions that it ruins Star Trek or anything like that. That's just not true, and I would not want to fall into that debate simply because it's a pain. The one consistent bright spot in all of this was Chancellor Archie, played by Holly Hunter. A space herbology class is basically an interesting environment, and she encourages the cadets to think for themselves in a way that's a simple joy to watch. You also get some great scenes at the end of this episode, we'll talk about in a minute. Watching a play of War College Commander Kelrek in a private setting kind of presented a great comparison of their characters. Aki's age and experience allows her to be as casual as she is while still commanding the room. It's one of the many positive points of having an Oscar-winning lead that is Holly Hunter play this so confidently and effortlessly. It's a tense scene, but a fun one, and she forces Kelrek out his role in leaking the video footage of the Academy cadets. The sports tryout scenes were maybe some of the more memorable shots of the episode for me. Sure, it doesn't beat an actual battlefield, but it is visually interesting, and the shooting and ducking was kind of exhilarating to watch. The biggest shame is that this action scene had kind of no real stakes or danger. Outside of Caleb, the most these characters have gotten is a hero moment at the end of the first episode. Given his voice opened the episode, it was nice to see this be Remy's plot of the episode. He's the typical tryhard, the jock, the guy who's waking up early in the morning to work out. Pitting him against Life, or Genesis Life, who's also similarly determined, it kind of made it fit for some nice character drama. By the time of the end, he kind of hands her the little varsity jacket at the end of the episode, and it kind of felt earned. Even if the trek to get there was kind of unoriginal. Where this plot really stood out was when the atrium was turned into a giant playing field. On one hand, we get to see the cadets work with one another to defeat the War College. On the other, it was really nice to see the giant set being used creatively. On the other hand, it was nice to use the giant set in this way. I really love the neon lighting throughout, crafting a nice atmosphere. Even spreading the action across the different levels was kind of fun to see. One of the biggest surprises at the end of the episode was the seeming continuance of a romance between Caleb and Tarima. In a show like this, such a relationship is almost inevitable. The love interest has gone and joined the rival clique, and is playing hard to get with the protagonist. It's kind of a bit basic. This is a story we've probably all seen before in other shows and things. Sitting of why she joined the college would have been interesting. It seems like it's going somewhere cool too. I held out some hope that it would invert some of this, especially when she asserts some agency on the basketball court and calls out Caleb for latching on and kind of feeling entitled. Alas, what could have been a modern discussion of agency is nullified when they share a kiss barely 20 minutes later. I guess we'll see how them studying in different schools kind of affects their relationship, and it also gives us a POV from the war college. A Betazoid woman exploring outside her bubble for the first time could have been really cool, and it still can be. I hope they're able to bring her character some meatier material. Romance is fine, and I hope this one gets more tolerable with time. So far, the material is far more fitting of a high school student than people playing or studying in college or university level. But that's a problem that plagues not just this subplot, but kind of the show as a whole. The herbology class at the episode's beginning introduced us to the titular vitus reflux. Vitus reflux? You get what I'm trying to say. This plant played a role in the episode's climax, and it was basically a no-brainer. The plants, or fungus, which echo the words spoken around them in a grating high pitch, are generally pretty cute. Either way, I've seen a toy of this thing on TikTok before, where people will say something to it, and it will make a song out of it. I've definitely seen many TikToks where people put bad words into it, and it's hilarious. So whether the writers also saw that toy and got inspired by that for the plan, I don't know. Some of you have definitely seen it, don't lie, tell me in the comments so I don't sound crazy. With most of the aliens that appear being humanoid, and most of the exterior sets being based in real life, seeing some proper alien plant life is always a treat. Utilising its protected status, speaking abilities, and adapting them to put an end to their prank war felt really cool. Then again, it was one of the few explicitly science fiction things in this episode. Watching the war cadets run from the planets infesting a dorm was kind of cathartic. Aki backing Kellogg into a corner of the rulebook was just a cherry on top. While a prank war was childish, the ultimate end was satisfying. Putting the arrogance of the war college to the limit and seeing them end the war and kind of congratulate the Academy cadets was actually really nice. Where the episode finally begins to come together is that final scene in Aki's office. It's still a moment between her and Caleb, but not one focused on his mother and their shared past. Instead, she's being a teacher and a leader. It's revealed that she masterminded their whole plan and participated in a big prank war herself while being a cadet. A lot of it was obvious, but it does serve to tie the episode together. Even better, it kind of redeems the episode's focus on young adult elements. Somewhat. As she explains what her intention was. More than a prank war, it was basically helping them understand their opponent, how to win, and basically a conflict. Leading of understanding and working together. At its heart, this is what Starfleet's all about. It's a great lesson to learn, and it's one that wasn't immediately obvious on first viewing. I don't think that bringing in the Starfleet moral code in the last 5 minutes is enough to truly elevate the episode. It's still an hour of cliche and dull high school pranks, antics that kind of belong in a B-plot of Glee or Gossip Girl. I've never watched either of those. All it does is make so the episode has some kind of tangible relation to actual Star Trek. In all, it was an interesting diversion episode in a short season, but does leave a bit to be desired. Something I did enjoy, and hope the series makes more of, is a reference to the past of the Star Trek universe. No, not the past we know as in from the 22nd century to the 25th century, but rather 28th century. This is an unexplored area of the Star Trek universe. The fact the show is making a reference is actually really cool. In this case, it's a simple reference to a class of cadets being pranked in the 28th century. Yes, hardly the reference of the century, but it's still something I would like to hear more of. As in hear more of the unexplored areas, not a prank war. Obviously it was revealed it's Arky's class as well. Before we end off this review, I think Tig Notaro's Commander Jet Reno got some great moments with Cadet Remy, especially talking about deserving of reply and such, and kind of parental issues. It was a nice scene, but also gave us an introduction to Reno and Laura Fox's relationship. This type of same-sex relationship was not forced, just politely added to the show as would be any other type of relationship. Simple. Okay, overall and in conclusion, the episode was generally a bit of a letdown for me. While finally fleshing out the other characters is a very welcome touch, the whole focus on the prank war was kind of childish. It made for a decent young adult flair, but for the most part, just kind of stripped away the Star Trek skin, and this episode could be click versus click episode of any other teen drama. Sure, the dialogue between Arky and Caleb at the end was great. Instead of a thought-out plan, it ends up feeling like this was tacked on as a Starfleet morality lesson. Of course, all the actors are in fine shape, and seeing them settled into their roles is good. Getting away from the mystery box and spending time with other characters is something we needed, and it has allowed the show some room to breathe. But the big shift towards the teen drama stuff here made it hard for me to get invested in it. I really hope the next week strikes a better balance, and I'd love to know where I can kind of get a set of those Warp Core pajamas that Captain Arky is wearing. Come on, Paramount merch, you could have made something decent here instead of a starship is landing, honestly. Alrighty, that's a wrap on this week's review. Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you don't, I'll beam you out of the airlock. Just joking. I don't have a beaming device. One airlock. Of course, if you want to keep up to date on my latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. Wait, it may be down there. No, down there. I don't know. And of course, you can never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media, the platform of your choice, or join our community Discord server and come and debate Star Trek with me. Don't actually, just come and talk casually. Of course, a big thank you to everyone who has supported us on Patreon. Your support allows us to continue making these Galaxy-class videos. For now, I've been Captain Jack. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.